Well, hey guys, and welcome to my pickups video for April 2016. I've kind of been eagerly awaiting doing this one because, here recently a little bit, month started off and I wasn't 100% sure what kind of good, cool stuff I was going to have to show off. By the time the month wrapped up, I had overestimated just how far, or I'd underestimated, I guess, just how far the month would take me. I've got a lot of stuff to show off, quite a few Blu-rays, quite a few games for different consoles, and a few other things to show off too. So I may as well just jump right on in. And this month I managed to pick up a whole bunch of anime stuff that I have been long waiting to finally pick up and get this stuff in my collection. I'm not a huge anime fan in that I have not watched a lot of anime. I have a few things in my collection already, but there were some select stuff that I was like, if I'm ever going to have an anime collection, these are some of the things that I have to have. So one of those that I'm going to start off with here is Ghost in the Shell. This is the 25th anniversary edition Blu-ray. This is one of the anime movies, anime classics that I've always wanted to get and to finally be able to watch. I do believe years ago I did try to watch this once when it was on DVD, and I just don't think that at the time anime was a thing for me that I was going to be able to get into, but tastes and things change, so now I believe this will be something I'll sit down and watch and really get into. And then I also decided to pick up, this is Ghost in the Shell 2.0. From what I have heard, this is essentially the original Ghost in the Shell movie, but also with, I believe there's like some CGI that's been included. Maybe you could even call this a little bit of like a George Lucas-ified version of Ghost in the Shell with certain scenes that have been changed. Both of them were cheap, so I just thought, why not? Might as well grab both of them. And then, interestingly enough, this was the first one that I bought this month. Before I even had those originals, I picked up Ghost in the Shell, the new movie. Sadly, later on in the month, I found out that this is based off of a television show series from Ghost in the Shell, and not as much with the original, and so I might not understand this as much as I would if I ever were to see that series. So there are a couple other Ghost in the Shell pickups that I can get to kind of fill in the gaps. But I'm definitely most excited to have the original movie itself. Now I've got a couple of things that I can't tell you how long I've wanted to pick this one up for sure. This is Cowboy Bebop, the complete series on Blu-ray. I fell in love a long time ago with Cowboy Bebop, although I've never seen the series. But the reason why I fell in love with it was because I got to see the movie, and now I have the movie on Blu-ray. A long time ago, probably like 10 years ago, I had the movie on DVD, and I watched it, and it was really cool, but as I was prone to do back then, I traded it away to get something else. But it paid off in the end because now I have the complete series and the movie on Blu-ray, and I can't wait to sit down and watch all of that and get the clearer picture of what is quite often, by a lot of the things that I'm into, a lot of the people that I follow on things like YouTube and Facebook, I've always said it's like one of anime's most classic and iconic series. And then this is one that maybe isn't held at that level universally, but for me, this was one that I was dying to check out. I even bought the DVD of this a while back. I think it was even in a pickups video, but I got rid of that when I realized the Blu-ray version was coming out. This is the Omega edition of Death Note on Blu-ray. And the cover is really cool, and the lighting will probably not do it justice, but it looks really awesome, really neat. and I was just ever so stoked to finally be able to pick this up, especially the Omega edition, because there was like a regular version. But I wanted this one. This one has, this is all 37 episodes, a 64-page booklet, which features the original manga pilot story and inside an exclusive chipboard box. It just, visually, it's really, really cool looking. So, awesome to have that. Now, that's the last of the anime-related stuff that I picked up. So now we're just going to kind of jump into the regular movie Blu-rays that I picked up. And we're going to start with a couple of Ryan Gosling films. I actually had a Ryan Gosling trilogy of films that I wanted to pick up. And I managed to pick up the two that he stars in. The third movie was a movie that he directs, but he's not in. But this first one is called Only God Forgives. And I think it was basically after he did Drive. He churned out a couple extra, or like a couple more movies after that were kind of gritty and maybe even kind of cult classic style ones where he got really good reviews for his work in it. This was one, Only God Forgives. Another one is this one here, The Place Beyond the Pines, with Bradley Cooper and Eva Mendes and Ray Liotta on that one. Those were both appealing to me, and I wanted to check them out. That third movie was called Lost River, starring Christina Hendricks. I'm going to pick that one up at some point. Okay, next up here, I've got a movie that I really enjoyed several years back when I first saw it, but I never picked it up in my collection. But this is Phone Booth, starring Colin Farrell and Forest Whitaker and Kiefer Sutherland. Really interesting kind of suspense and thriller. I really would recommend it. Whenever I get around to sitting down and watching this again, when I do my recent viewing video of it, I'll have some interesting trivia about this that I always thought was really awesome when I found out about it when I watched that movie the first time. Okay, next up we have Ted 2. Watched Ted 2, I think it was earlier this year or late last year. Really enjoyed it. Loved the first Ted movie. Loved Seth MacFarlane, the guy behind Family Guy. So I couldn't pass up getting the sequel. I have a wrestling pickup here to show off. Something that I didn't realize was going to have this really cool slipcover to it, but this is straight out of Dudleyville, The Legacy of the Dudley Boys. One of my favorite tag teams in WWE history, and ECW, and even TNA, even though I didn't really see any of the stuff that they did there. But what's cool about this slipcover, I'm not going to pop it open, but like the back of this, it's made to look like a table. And if you were to fold out these pieces here, they would pop down and it would look like legs of a table. And the Dudley Boys are notorious for putting people through tables. So that was a really cool touch. And I did do a video about that because I've already watched the documentary portion of that. Now I have a movie that was kind of a one of those, what do you call it, spontaneous kind of pickups. Just didn't really have any interest in this movie too much. When I saw it advertised, and then when it came to the store, I just kind of looked at it and I was like, I like the lady who's in this, Natalie Dormer from Game of Thrones and Hunger Games. Anyway, the movie is The Forest. It's a horror movie. I'm not really into horror movies, but this was interesting because it takes place in Japan's infamous suicide forest. So maybe it'll be alright, maybe it'll suck balls, I don't know. But every once in a while, there's just a movie that comes along and I'm like, yeah, I'll just take a chance. And that was definitely April's Take a Chance one. Now, this is a movie I'm really glad to get. I have seen at least the first movie in this series. I don't remember if I ever watched the sequel, but now there's the third. This is Ip Man 3, starring Donnie Yen. Also apparently has Mike Tyson in it, which is really interesting. Donnie Yen is a very highly underrated, he's a very underrated badass. I don't know if anything is highly underrated. But he is really awesome. To me, he's up there with the Jet Li's and Jackie Chan's of the world. And like I said, I've seen at least the first Ip Man, which was really great. Maybe I saw the second one. I just don't recall. But this was worth picking up. And I'm so glad that my store got the Blu-ray version of it, because I would have been upset if they hadn't. And I have two what I consider to be high-profile movies for the last month. Starting off with The Revenant. I'm not a super huge fan of Leonardo DiCaprio. I think I've said this before in other videos, but this movie could have starred just about anybody in its lead role, and I would have been interested. It's beautiful. It's cinematic. It reminds me very, very much of Montana, a place that I lived for a lot of years, and a place that within the last few weeks I've actually found myself referring to as home. Kind of wish I was back there at least to visit. But I definitely wanted to pick this one up because I've heard that it's really awesome. It's got Tom Hardy in it as well, and I'm eager to check that one out. And of course, the biggest release of the last month, without a shadow of a doubt, is Star Wars: The Force Awakens. The only decision that I had to make with this one was who was I going to buy it from for all the different the covers that different stores were putting out. Even Walmart, I got mine at Walmart. I liked this design because it was just kind of classic and minimal and not too busy. Well, we also had a BB-8 cover that was kind of cool, but at the same time it was just BB-8 and you flipped it open. Target had a cover that at first I thought was cool, but then after a while I was like, no, it's kind of ugly. It had the faces, like on this one, some of the characters are within the letters of Star Wars. The one that they had was more of a focus on all the different faces, and the poses were a little cheesy to me, and I just didn't care for that version. So this one was the one I ended up going with. I'm saddened with myself that I haven't sat down and rewatched it since I picked it up earlier in the month. But I do have it. It will eventually get watched again. Now, after those last two movies, what possible movie could I have saved for last in the movie section of this? Well, what is generally considered by a lot of people to be the worst movie of all time, but also known as the best worst movie of all time. Yes, it's none other than Tommy Wiseau's The Room. I have been watching Blu-ray copies of this movie for maybe close to a year, and I have literally seen this sell anywhere from $30 to $40, and I thought, wow, really? You know, like, I've bought a whole shit ton of movies in the past, of better movies that were $7 or $8. So I was like, why would this one be so expensive? Well, I'm sure there is a collectible nature to this movie. I managed to finally get this for around about $20, and I thought, that's more like it. I'll take it. So this actually just arrived today with a couple of the games I'll be showing here in a moment. And I'm looking forward to finally getting a chance to watch this. I've read so much about it. I've watched video clips from it. I know all the quotes. I watched Chris Stuckman's Hilariosity review of it. It was finally time to get this and eventually watch it and do a video for it myself. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the games. I've got a decent amount of games, not quite as many as I had of the movies, but I got some cool stuff in here that I'm excited about. Well, the first thing that I have to show here was not necessarily something that I wanted to buy. It's not even something that I can play because it's tied into the Rock Band series and I don't have any of the Rock Band games or instruments. But I bought it because it was old and it had been sitting in my store for a couple of years. It finally got marked down to $5. I'll pick up a $5 video game to add something to the collection. In this case, it's the Beatles Rock Band. Like I said, it sat around in my store for the longest time at $20. It finally got marked down to $5, so I took one off of our hands and put it into my collection. Then I got another one of my short list of most wanted Wii games, and I just recently picked up the first in this series. This is Super Mario Galaxy 2. Super happy to get that because I had this weird feeling that once it disappeared from stores like my Walmart, it was probably going to get more expensive. I don't know why I thought that, but still ended up picking this up for like the standard $20 budget game amount, and that was awesome. And now this is the last thing I have to show game-wise. It's not for my newly purchased PS4. I actually got an eBay game, and this was from a GameSack video that I watched recently about more kart racing games that they decided to cover. And this is for the PlayStation 2, so it was cool to get something new in the PlayStation 2 library. And this is a Space Race, or Looney Tunes Space Race, and it was a game that they thought was pretty favorable, and I thought it looked pretty cool. Plus it's Looney Tunes, and it's kind of cool to get a video game from this cartoon series, even though this is from 2002, so this is a 14-year-old game. But it seems to have pretty decent reviews. I only paid around like $8 for it. It's a complete copy. It's got the booklet and the game. And I don't know. Like I said, I was just inspired by watching their video. I went to look for a few of the games that they covered. This one came up as pretty cheap, and I made it happen. And the rest of the games here are all PS4. First thing I got to show off here is Final Fantasy X and X-2 Remaster for PlayStation 4. So now I own these two games on PlayStation 2, separate copies, PlayStation 3 in the remaster, and now the PlayStation 4 remaster. If my PS3, if the HDMI output on my PS3 had went kaput, I would have just played it for PS3 and I wouldn't have went for this. But now if I want to play these games again anytime soon, this is my best route on PS4. Now I have a game here called The Talos Principle. This is Deluxe Edition. After some research on my part, I discovered that this was the only version that came out in the US. There wasn't a normal version. This is also inspired by a YouTube channel and a video that I saw on that channel called Fun with Guru. Just a guy refers to himself as Kid Guru. He does a lot of secrets and Easter egg type videos on YouTube. Awesome. Usually done with no talking, just text on the screen, screenshots of the game, and awesome music. And this one he highlighted in a couple of different videos that I watched last year, I believe it was. And just the more that I saw of the game, the more I wanted to check it out. Now see, I'm not a guy who usually likes puzzle style games like this. It even says on the back here, the best puzzler since Portal. This is the kind of game that it gets like compared to. And I'm not into the Portal games. I don't own the Portal games. I don't really have any interest in them. But this one, I don't know. There was just something about it that grabbed me. Maybe it was the kitty on the front. I don't know. But I'm hoping it'll be fun for me. This next game here comes with some disappointment. I bought this because it was on Walmart.com, and with my discount, it was about $7, and it has to do with one of my favorite video game characters and franchises. It's Lara Croft in the Temple of the Osiris, or Temple of Osiris. Now, why would this be disappointing? Well, it's these little words right up here in this corner. This is game download code only, game disc not included. I didn't realize I was buying a glorified, game case with no game inside, just a code download. If I had known that, well, I probably just wouldn't have bought it. If I had my choice between buying it like this or buying it digitally and just downloading it to my console, I would go with this because this can sit on the shelf and it'll at least look nice. But if I had known it was just a download code, I probably wouldn't have spent the money on it. But you live and you learn. Now the next game I have here is something that I think looks pretty cool. Maybe another one of those kind of games that's in the style of what they call a walking simulator. I don't know. This game actually advertises that it has two different ways you can play it. Says one is a first-person adventure. Well, it says it's called Ether 1 or Ether 1. I'm kind of hoping that they wanted it to be Ether 1 because of the thing I'm going to explain here. But this says Ether 1 is a first-person adventure that deals with the fragility of the human mind. Enjoy open narrative exploration or solve complex puzzles. Gameplay is accessible, allowing you to decrypt puzzles at your own pace. Be free in how you enjoy the game. Basically, what I read out of this was that you can kind of just choose to do the walking simulator part and go through and enjoy the narrative part of the game, or you can play a mode of it where you have a lot of puzzles and stuff to solve. And so that's why I thought I gathered from the cover of it that it could be either one, Ether 1, okay. Anyway, it just looked cool. It's also feels like the kind of game that would normally be a download only, but this one is actual disc in case type game. Alright, 3 more games to show, and then I'll have a couple related items. The next one up here is The Witch and the Hundred Knight Revival Edition. This was a PS3 game, but it got this Revival Edition for the PS4. Now, I kind of forgot about this one. I had my eye on it a long time ago for the PS3, but it just got away from me. And then when the PS4 came out, I noticed a couple of times that it was released for that, and finally I decided to pick it up, hoping it'll be kind of fun. Now, I'm not really complaining about this, but there's sort of a graphical style to this game that I'm seeing in a lot of other games. A lot of the recent Tales games, and just a whole bunch of what I would consider to be heavily Japanese influenced, if not Japanese produced, RPG style games and otherwise. And they have a certain kind of animation to them that I'm not necessarily the most in love with. I feel like they're going in this weird direction of games like Honey Pop and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that doesn't detract from my enjoyment of a game like this or any of the other ones that I feel are in that light. But it just, some things are aesthetically appealing to some people and some are not. And that's just something that's not really doing it for me. Okay, now we're down to the last 2 games, and these 2 games are a testament to collectors like me who prefer the physical stuff over the digital games. This is Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. This is DLC for Wolfenstein: The New Order, which I think I showed in the last pickup video. But this was DLC that was actually released in its own physical game, in its own physical variety, on its own, not physical disc. I don't remember if this one, it's supposed to have a disc. Well, that's wonderful. I guess I'll have to figure out what's going on with that, because this was something that just came in today, and there's no disc inside, so that's awesome. Well, you never know what's going to happen on these videos here now, do you? Alright, well, let's just go on to the other thing then. This is Infamous First Light. This is also DLC for a game. This was DLC for Infamous Second Son that was released physically on a disc, but on a disc only released in the other major territories, PAL and Japan, but not in the US. In the US they were digital only. So I ordered this one basically like an import because the PS4 of course is not region locked, and I can play this on it. So I went ahead and got it, and a couple of YouTubers that I watch, I think both Adam Korlick and Alpha Mega Sin, I think both of them mentioned this at one point, and they were like, you know, pick this up, maybe even Happy Console Gamer. So that's why I got it for, I think, a little less than $30. I don't know if that's probably more than what it would have cost to just download the digital version, But I was like, it's well worth it in my opinion to pay the companies and say, hey, this is what I want, is an actual physical copy. Okay, so now I'll show off the last couple of things that I have. Things that are not video games or movies, but related. This is something that I managed to snag off of our Star Wars display at work. This is just a cardboard thing that affixed to one of our little display setups for the movie. There were some bigger ones and more elaborate ones, but one, I didn't need something huge and gaudy to throw in my house. Plus two, they don't really allow us to take a whole lot of stuff like this, so it would be really difficult to just kind of walk out of there with some massive thing. This, though, I think will do just nicely. It's just about the right size to kind of fit into my house, somewhere in my collection to show off. Now, I got these are magnets that are displayed on our PlayStation 4 little display kiosk. It's not a display or a playable PS4. It's a TV that runs demos all the time, and whenever there's new releases that come out, these magnets get stuck on that until the next thing comes along. So I've got a magnet, a big size magnet for Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I've got one here for Star Wars Battlefront. I don't take all of them, but every once in a while I get something that I wouldn't normally grab, like for example this one, Guitar Hero Live. That's not a game that interests me, so but I just managed to happen to grab that one day. I think probably with one of these other ones. There's the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. Here's the God of War 3 Remastered. Here's one I'm really glad that I was able to grab. It's in Until Dawn. And then I have two here for Arkham Knight when it came out, which was pretty cool to get both of those. Those are the oldest of the ones that we got at the store that I was able to grab. And then the last thing that I have to show is something, I've shown something similar to this in previous pickup videos, but I managed to get one more of these. This is a bigger and an older, obviously because it's PlayStation 2, but it's bigger and older, like plexiglass display for PS2. It's got the cool logo sticker on there as well. It's a little scuffed, it's a little, worse for wear, but I'm just glad that I got it in my collection, because at some point in the future I hope that I can kind of display a few more things like that in my man cave, so to speak. So anyway, that's the extent of my pickups for April. I already have another thing coming in the mail that'll be here in the next week or so, so that'll be the first of my May pickups, and I'll be looking forward to getting back in front of the camera for that video at the end of May. So thanks a lot guys for watching, and see you next time.